Hello everyone and welcome back to another video on the channel, and of course I am back here talking about episode 5 of Invincible, starring Yeun and J.K. Simmons and a bunch of other very talented people. Zazie, Beetz, Sandra, who voices Clancy Brown. Everybody in the show is fantastic. Walton, Goggins, there's so many people voicing characters in this show, and I absolutely adore this thing to death. If you guys have not seen my previous 2 videos on this, definitely go check it out, and of course I will be talking about spoilers for the latest episode, and probably my favorite episode so far of this show. I'm loving it. I just can't believe that this show, out of nowhere, that I've never heard of until a couple weeks ago, is now my favorite show on TV. So definitely go check this show out, guys. I cannot give this any more praise. I think there's only 3 more episodes left in this season, and that is just devastating to me. So let's just jump right into this episode with Mahershala Ali being introduced in this episode, not really as the villain of the week type of character, which I thought at first he was going to be, but instead that is more belonging to the Machine Head character, which of course, you know, the villain names in the show. Our top-notch Machine Head is very, very funny. But then you have Mahershala Ali as this character Titan, and he became a very fascinating type of anti-hero throughout this episode, because he showed up in the first episode, I believe, when Invincible was first learning his powers and like punches him through a wall, the first fight that he ever really had. But now you get this character who's going around, he's threatening people, and he's doing these jobs for this Machine Head guy, and you slowly find out that he's just trying to get money so he can get out of his life of crime, so he can pay to help his daughter and his wife and his family that are really struggling down on the streets. And this is a very compelling character. For one, this character is awesome. He can turn himself into a rock, essentially like the Thing, but less orange, and, you know, able to switch back to a normal human. But, you know, he's very strong and very powerful, and as he gets hit and the rocks get chipped away, you can see his skin. He has to reform the rocks around him, and it's a very, very fun character to watch in these action sequences. But again, he is the heart of this episode, because that's all he really wants, is to be able to help his family, and he essentially, you know, writes Invincible on the top of a rooftop and gets his help to take down this robot head or machine head, because he wants to get a better life for his family, and that's exactly what he ends up doing in a kind of twisted way by the end of it. But things in this storyline were very interesting, and it also put a lot of pressure on Invincible and his relationship with Amber, which, again, I've said this in the past couple videos, I'm loving this relationship, and Invincible is reminding me more and more of Peter Parker and Spider-Man, or I guess Miles Morales too, any Spider-Man character in general, that struggle between work and school and being a superhero, and that struggle with all 3 of those is very unique to Spider-Man, and they gave that storyline to a Superman-like character in Invincible, and even as fast as he is, he still struggles with all of this. And I think that's what makes superheroes compelling in the first place, is making them super relatable and just these minor, I guess, very human interactions with other people. And that's why I love this character so much, and that relationship with Amber has been set up so well, and that she is very much about to drop him and give up on him because he doesn't seem like he cares, even though he cares so incredibly much. And that conversation between Amber and Eve was fantastic. It was phenomenal, because, you know, obviously Eve knows the secret that he is invincible, but Amber doesn't, and the way she says he loves you more than anything, he talks about you more than anything, and he's a good guy, and it may not seem like that from the outside, but he really is. So I'm very compelled to see where that relationship ends up going between Invincible and Amber. And of course it adds a lot of comedy in this episode, because you get to see him, you know, fighting crime, his daily life. He's punching people in the face, and, you know, he's texting on his phone as some other villain is smacking him with poles and cars and bricks and all these things. It's a very, very funny sequence, and he's trying his best. He even saves the planet, or I guess the country, from an asteroid that's about to hit the Earth, and he has to try to stop that as his dad just kind of sits there and watches him struggle, which, again, I will get into that a little bit later in the episode. But, you know, he's trying so hard to be in all these places at once, and again, compelling, very Spider-Man-like. And the fact that this is in a show format, you get more of that build up between that relationship, it makes it, again, extremely compelling. And so I want to talk about the ending of this episode, that fights, that team up between Invincible and Titan at the end of the episode, fighting Machine Head, or not really Machine Head, but this other group that he has formed around him to fight these 2 heroes. And this guy that they're fighting is insanely difficult, and this lava guy, and this other person who's just doing other different cool abilities. And that's what I love about the villain of the week type of situations in the show, because they are all extremely unique and creative, and the power uses and the action sequences that are built with these characters are very, very fun. But my god, did they get their asses beat in this fight. They are struggling to no end. They're getting smacked back and forth. At one point, Invincible's, you know, mask is breaking off, his goggles are gone, and he's getting desperate. He sees Titan down and on the ground, and he kind of snaps snaps and he throws things, and you think he's going to finally, get the ability to really defeat these guys, and you see Omni-Man is floating above him, watching down at him, kind of in curiosity as to how, Invincible is going to get out of this situation, and he starts to do it, but then it just turns all around and just on top of Invincible, and he is down and he is out of the fight. He is really injured at this point, and that's before the new Guardians of the Globe comes in, because they're still struggling to try to be a team within themselves, and so they break in, they start fighting. Again, the teamwork between these action sequences and these unique set of powers is very entertaining to watch, and this fight was phenomenal, but it quickly turns into that same situation where these villain characters are whooping them back and forth, and they just can't do anything. You can tell Black Samson is trying to be the true leader, since Robot is off doing his robot-y things with the MAULER twins, and he's trying to be the leader of this group, but he gets taken out pretty quickly, and then Explode gets taken out pretty quickly, and everybody gets knocked out, and Monster Girl almost dies, essentially. I think she might have. I honestly don't know the state of her by the end of this episode, and it was devastating to see these heroes, once again, the Guardians of the Globe, getting just completely annihilated, like in the first episode. And this episode reminded me a lot of that first one, where Omni-Man is killing all the Guardians of the Globe, because they're getting crushed. There's blood everywhere, and it even gets to a point where this, big guy strikes down on Invincible and essentially takes him out even further than he was before. He was injured before, but no, he is dying. He is on his deathbed at the end of this episode, and it was genuinely shocking and emotional, because you also see the back and forth between Amber and Eve at the same time, because he's missing his date with Amber, and that's again another heartbreaking thing, because they built that relationship. But then you see where he is and the pain that he's going through and how beat he is becoming, and it's just devastating. And so this episode focuses mainly on that storyline, but of course you get some more Omni-Man stuff of him, watching over as, his son is essentially dying, and he's just floating above them doing absolutely nothing. And he is off from the previous episode, and I still don't know exactly what his motivations are. Is he, sent to Earth to, get a child of some kind to train them to essentially replace him eventually as he goes back to his home planet, and then they take over the Earth, or whatever his evil plan truly is, his true motivations is? I really don't know yet. And the fact that Sandra Oh is, trying to discover all these things about him, she's doing her own investigation and picking up the pieces that Damien Darkblood left behind, is a very, very compelling story, because I love Damien Darkblood. I think he's a very fascinating character, and I really hope they bring him back, even though he was, destined and sent back to hell at the end of last episode. But I really like that she is now the one investigating this, because that's her husband. That's the trust that they've had over however many years that they've been together, and now all of it's falling apart, and she believes that he is the true one suspect of the murder of the entire Guardians of the Globe, and how dangerous is this guy truly. And by the end of this season, I know there's going to be some sort of answer to that question, and I am just terrified of what that could possibly be. And again, on top of that, when Invincible is trying to struggle with the balance of helping people and saving the world and doing school and his relationships and all of that, you get this, conversation of whether he is meant to actually help Titan or not, because, as Omni-Man says, those are people that are below him. He is a higher tier superhero, and he focuses on saving millions of lives instead of thousands of lives. And that is just something that a hero doesn't say. A hero doesn't care if it's one life or a million. It doesn't matter to a true hero, and that's where Omni-Man is getting very, very sketchy. And this idea that not saving people that are quote-unquote below you is a really messed up idea, and I love how they brought that up in this show, and how you see Invincible truly being a good hero and a truly good person, fighting this, smaller threats that he is told that is smaller, that he thinks might be potentially smaller, but ends up being a lot bigger than it is. And that is just a very interesting story. And again, at the end of the episode, you have Titan basically taking over this criminal organization, or not really criminal organization, because he's going to try to help people and become a good guy now with this new thing that he is essentially taken over, which is kind of interesting. I love that Mahershala Ali is a voice cast in this series, and I hope we get a lot more of him, because again, he was the heart of this episode and I really enjoyed it. So that is my review and thoughts on episode 5 of Invincible. I love this show, guys. I cannot get over it. It is so funny. You get a Batman The Dark Knight moment where Omni-Man is holding that guy and drops him, and he's just, are you going to catch him? And just lets him fall. This show is very funny. It's brutal and violent and bloody, and it's just everything that I wanted, or everything that I didn't know I wanted from an animated, or really just any show in general on TV right now. So that is my review, guys. Subscribe to the channel if you guys have not already, and you guys, the community of Invincible and the fandom has been very kind. If I messed anything up, please let me know in the comments down below. Don't spoil the comics for me because I have not read them and I want to learn this story as the show goes along. So don't spoil any of the mysteries, but I'm very excited to get those answers as we eventually pull them out and discover them throughout the rest of the season. So thanks guys for watching this video, and I hope to see you all in my next one.